Hello and welcome on into the Sports on Tap, What's on Tap show with me, George on Tap. Now, I know I've said this multiple times this week, and I'm going to say it again. Sorry for the short show. And the reason for that is I got Cox internet at home and it never freaking works. I'm actually doing this hotspot on my phone and I can't understand. So, this is like a little rant here. How do internet service providers in 2024 still can't figure out how to get a consistent signal? I've like unplugged my thing about 5, 6 times, and I still can't get a signal. I'm looking at it over here, and it's red. I've unplugged and plugged in the router multiple times, and there's still no chance for the internet to work properly. Our betting show is still uploading. Ended half an hour ago, so I haven't been able to do anything with that. Cox Internet, get your act together. So it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show, but we're going to try to have a little bit of fun with it. Let's begin. The NFL is like real estate. Some teams belong in a better place than others. Some are like New York City penthouses, and some, well, you just own a trailer home. NFL teams and organizations are built with something called culture. They are built with intention to win. Just like a household, they are based trying their best. But some won't. They just can't cut it. Welcome to Week 6 NFL Real Estate Rankings. We put every team in a category from New York City penthouse to suburban homes to homeless. Where does your team fit? Well, let's find out. All right, so we do this every week. I have my tier lister. It's already up where they were last week, and we're going to move every team around or keep them in the same place. Our real estate rankings for NFL. So I'm going to go ahead and present my screen here so you guys can see it. We have different categories. I'll explain that here in a second. I hope you can see my screen. Even that is giving me a hard time with this damn internet. And I want to show my screen. This is great, guys. Riveting. There we go. Way of doing a show for you guys. I do apologize. All right, so here's our screen. If it'll load, there we go. We made it. I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit for you so you can see what that chart looks like. So right now we have these categories. It's like the best real estate in the country. Miami mansion, pretty good. House with a pool, you're living good. Suburban home, nice and average. Apartment paycheck to paycheck, you're struggling. Hospital, that means you're really injured. A trailer home, and if you're homeless. These don't change much week to week in the NFL, but we're trying our best here to make it fun and relevant. So let's start off with teams in the penthouse New York City, the Ravens. They still belong in penthouse New York City. Great team, great culture. They're a contender. The Chiefs, they find a way to squeak out. I know they had a bye week, but they find a way to squeak out each and every single win, and they're doing well. Detroit Lions, welcome to New York together, a legit Super Bowl contender. Unfortunately, Aiden Hutchinson is hurt, but I love the culture. I love that Dan Campbell literally just went to Dallas and was like, last year you guys made a big mistake by not by giving our linemen a ineligible downfield penalty. So this year we're going to give it to you guys, and we're going to run every trip. The Vikings are still going to stay at Miami, man. This Lions, like one of these teams is going to flip flop. Either they're going to stay here or they're going to flip flop. Packers, you are still a Miami mansion. Great team. You're looking good, but you're just not there yet into the penthouse, New York City. Commanders, last week I had you at Miami mansion. You still are really good with Jaden Daniels, but you're dropping down to House of Pool. Jaden Daniels is your pool. The Chicago Bears, the Bears. Let's talk about the Bears for a second. This team's now 4-2. Shane Waldron is defensive coordinator of Caleb Williams, or Caleb Williams just masks the badness of Shane Waldron. They stay in House of Pool. Same with the Falcons, using games looking good. Here. Texans, you move up to Miami Mansion. You are a Super Bowl contender, fringe one, along with Green Bay, Minnesota. Green Bay and Minnesota plays each other this week. I think the winner of that game will be moving up to the Miami or the Penthouse, New York City. Bill, you move up to Miami Mansion. You're a very good football team. Every time I take a step away from the Bills, I just come back to the Bills. Cowboys, you move down to suburban home. You are nothing but an average football team. Plain and simple. The Lions went to Detroit and beat you up and down the field like it was nothing. The Giants, you are moving down to New York penthouse. I'm sorry, apartment pay to check to paycheck. You're just barely surviving here. Broncos, same thing. Chargers, one more week and you might move up to House of Pool. Colts, you're just an average team. Seahawks, I'm sorry. My Seahawks moved down to apartment paycheck to paycheck. Love my team, but just not good enough right now. Tampa, you're a suburban home. You're average. Cardinals, you're also barely surviving. And then the Pennsylvania teams, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, you guys are both suburban homes. You're good enough. You're surviving. You're living all right, but you're just not there yet. Bengals are going to take a big jump to House of Pool. I know the record doesn't reflect that, but Joe Burrow is the pool. He's such a great quarterback. You just deserve to be there. Jets, paycheck. You might be upgrading to suburban home now that you got the Adams. Just not there yet. The Jaguars, you're dropped all the way down to a trailer home. You went to London, where you guys are usually unbeatable, and just got ran. Saints, you're in paycheck to paycheck. You are just good enough, but you're not. I don't know what Spencer Rattler is. The hospital teams, Dolphins, you remain in the hospital until Tua comes back, and the Rams, you remain in the hospital until, I don't even know, probably the rest of his season. The 49ers are a Miami Mansion. They're a Super Bowl contender. Christian McCaffrey is still not there. They're still playing better ball than most teams. The trailer home teams, the Raiders, you're a trailer home. You're all right. You're good enough to just live. You're living. That's it. Same with the Patriots. You're living. Dick May looks like he could maybe get you paycheck to paycheck by the end of the season. But right now, the Jaguars, we already talked about them. We moved them to trailer home. And the homeless teams remain. The Panthers are homeless. The Titans are homeless. And the Browns are worse than homeless. They have Deshaun Watson. And to me, just awful. So the rankings, real estate edition. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's move on to our next topic. Okay, guys, so a little luckiness on the show. But nothing is working with the internet today, so we already described that. Grit, toughness, consistency, smash mouth. That's what Dan Campbell has tried to build in Detroit. The Lions might be the best team in the NFL, and Dan Campbell's to thank for that. The team where Dan Campbell was hired, was ridiculed, mocked, laughed at. Look who's laughing now. The Detroit Lions are laughing now. Jared Goff is, Amon-Ra St. Brown is. You get the picture. Never have I seen a team built perfectly for a city like the Lions are built for Detroit. The downside, well, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, but will the Lions miss a beat? Let's talk about the Lions culture. The Detroit Lions are a really good football team. And it goes to show that sometimes first impressions don't matter. And usually they do. Your gut instincts will tell you, hey, this is right, this is wrong. But Dan Campbell came into the league, and everyone, including myself and media, there is nobody who didn't laugh at Dan Campbell and said Dan Campbell is above skis. Dan Campbell's busting kneecaps and his culture, and they're going to play smash mouth, and he's angry and he's yelling, and this is what Detroit football is all about. And we all laughed. We sat there and laughed at him. Detroit is fantastic, and they have built their football team, the football team, inside out. Offensive line, defensive line. and then we'll put in a quarterback who's talented in Jared Goff, give him time to protect to good weapons, and they're going to feast. If you are a Detroit Lions fan, be happy right now. Be thrilled right now. You got a team that could, I mean, look at the names that have come through Detroit. Barry Sanders, maybe one of the most talented, if not most talented running back of all time. Calvin Johnson, he's not the greatest wide receiver of all time, but he's arguably the biggest specimen and one of the most amazing wide receivers of all time. You couldn't win with them. They retired early because Detroit's culture was so bad. Dan Campbell comes in and turns it all around like it's nothing. You're lucky to have Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell's lucky to have a fan base like Detroit that understands his grit, his toughness, and what it's all about. And that's Detroit Lions Smash Mouth football. And it just goes to show, I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. There's a book called Blink, where your first instinct is usually right. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes that instinct you get the first time you feel something, question it. And that's what we should have done with Dan Campbell. That's what we should have done with the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell is an amazing, amazing coach because he's built a culture. And sure, he's not sitting there. Maybe he's not the X's and O's guys. But you know what? His team believes in him. His fan base believes in him. And most importantly, he believes in himself and his philosophies. Dan Campbell is a freaking monster of a head coach. The Detroit Lions are building something special. I know they lost Aiden Hutchinson, but Dan Campbell gave perfect answers about if they're still a Super Bowl contender. They're not going to quit. They'll probably rally around this. He's probably using this right now and telling them, hey, everyone, no one believes us anymore. And they'll go play harder. The next guy will step up, and the Detroit Lions will play good football. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. This has been the What's on Tap's show with me, George on Tap. As always, like and subscribe. Hopefully tomorrow we'll see you next time.